Today's standard you're going to be working on is ASSE B3, and you're working on choosing and producing an equivalent form of an expression to reveal and explain properties of the quantity represented by the expression. This standard showed up on the Learn Zillion assessment when you were required to choose a correct factor of the quadratic equation x squared minus 2x equals 2x squared minus 24. Because the answer choices were factors, it would make the most sense to convert the equation into factored form using the process of factoring. Based on the work we've done in class, we know that in order to factor an expression, it first needs to be set equal to 0. To do this, we need to move all the terms to one side of the equation using addition and subtraction. So I'm going to take our equation that we have up here and just go ahead and copy it down. X squared minus 2x equals 2x squared minus 24. And because we are looking for factors, we want to make sure we set our equation equal to 0. So to do that, I want all my terms to one side of the equation, and I want x squared to be positive. So if I look right here, x squared is positive, which means I'm not going to move it. I'm going to take the terms to the right and move them to the left. So if I have 2x squared, how do I move it? I do the inverse and subtract 2x squared. And to move a negative 24, I do the inverse and I add 24. And if I do something to one side, I got to do it to the other side of the equation as well. If I take 2x squared away here on the right, I can also take it away from x squared on the left. So minus 2x squared we're going to put here. But here I have a positive 24. But on the left side I don't have any constant term. So I can't add it to the negative 2x because they're not like terms. So I'm just going to kind of add it on there at the end. And we're going to now create our new equation. So we've got x squared minus 2x squared is going to give us a negative x squared. Negative 2x minus nothing is just going to bring us negative 2x. Drop it down. And then we have a positive 24 that we just dropped down, and all of that equals 0. So now we have our equation set equal to 0. So we're going to go ahead and use the process of factoring to identify the factors of the expression. Now again, before we can start doing that, I want you to notice that there is a negative in front of x squared. And before we factor, we need that negative to be a positive. So how do we turn a negative to a positive? We do it by multiplication. So I'm going to take the whole equation, multiply it by a negative 1. So negative times a negative makes positive x squared. Negative times a negative makes a positive 2x. And negative times a positive makes negative 24. And that's all equal to 0. So now as we begin our factoring process, we know that a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, and c is equal to negative 24. And to find our factors, we do the a times c. So 1 times the negative 24 makes negative 24. And those factors need to add to b, which is 2. So my factors of negative 24 are negative 1 and 24, negative 2 and 12, negative 3 and 8, and negative 4 and 6. Of these sets of factors, what's the one that adds up to 2? Negative 4 plus 6 is going to make a 2, so I want to choose those two factors. Remember, our two factors are going to replace our value of b. So I need to rewrite my equation, starting off with x squared. Instead of a 2x, I'm going to replace it with negative 4x plus 6x. And then I'm going to take my value of c, negative 24, and there's my new equation. So to find our two factors, we use the grouping method, put parentheses around the first two terms, as well as the second two terms. and then we find our greatest common factor. So what's the greatest factor of 1 and 4? It's a 1x. And if I divide 1x from x squared to negative 4x, I'm left with x minus 4. Then I have 6x minus 24. The greatest common factor would be a plus 6. And if I divide that out, 6x divided by 6 is x. Negative 24 divided by 6 is negative 4. And that's all equal to 0. We check what's inside the parentheses. If it matches, that means we factored correctly. So we have our two factors now. The first is what is outside, x plus 6. And then the other factor is what's left inside, x minus 4. And we have went ahead and found our factors for the problem. So you're going to complete the rest of the problems this way by, you're going to take the equation, make sure that it's set equal to 0. Once you've done that, you're going to go through your factoring process, and once you find your factors, that will be your solution. So before you get your work started here, I want you to notice a few things I need you to change. On number 1, make sure you go ahead and set that equation equal to 0. So number 1, set the equation equal to 0. On number 2, you can go ahead and cross the problem out. I want you to rewrite it as negative 2x squared minus 14x minus 7 equals 2x squared plus 2x. So again, it should read negative 2x squared minus 14x minus 7 equals 2x squared plus 2x. Flip to the back. This one I would like you to change to change the 12 to a 10, so it should read x squared minus 10x plus 52 equals 3x plus 10. So just draw a 0 over that 2, so it's a 10 instead of a 12. And then on number 4, I want you to add a positive x here. So negative 9x plus 20 equals negative x squared minus 4, and then just add on that plus x. And you should be all set to go.